I've collected over $1 million in cash, and this is the exact framework that I use to increase my ticket size by over 150%. I'm Zach Schubert, and today I'm going to give you the exact two-call framework that allowed me and my team to close higher ticket deals and more profitable deals consistently. Why do I like a two-call framework? The problems I see with a one-call framework for an agency and for a service that you're trying to sell for high ticket, anywhere from $4,000 all the way to $30,000, is clients immediately push for price. So they want to know how much it costs. They want to know what your service is. And this immediately leads and shows them and shows you that they're actually price shopping and just looking for whatever's the cheapest rather than looking for a premium service. The second thing is you end up giving them a very generic solution instead of actually tailored strategies. We know that a solution for someone is pretty much all the same. We're going to do ABC for everyone, but everyone that comes in to talk to you, they think that their problems are unique and that therefore they need a unique solution to their problems. So if you're able to position it in a way where it is tailored to them, the value of your offer is significantly higher. Right? And so that's why the third thing is there is a lower perceived value, and it does then, like I said, lead them to that price shopping. Now, the benefits, the three major benefits that I see of a two-call close is one, it allows for a very detailed discovery and a thorough audit. So this means that you don't have to, just close any client under the planet, and you can thoroughly audit them yourself to see if you could even get results for them. The second thing that does is that it also allows for you to tailor everything and position your service as the custom tailored solution to their issues, which once again increases the perceived value of your actual offer, right? And then they feel like you're talking specifically to them, and it's not just like, hey, this is what we do for all e-com brands, or this is what we do for all plumbers. And then the third thing is that it also reduces price resistance and enhances that trust, because you've built it around them. You've taken them through the process of, these are the things that I've found in your business. These are the issues that I've found in your business, and these are the solutions for them. So they know that you are the authority in that space to be able to show them that, right? And so some real world examples for you is, for example, I own an SEO agency. We do a two-call close. The first call is asking them all about their brand, their metrics, what they're looking to accomplish, their budget, all of that. And then my team goes, they do a full audit of them. They're able to look at their competitors to see how much their competitors are spending on SEO. They're able to look at how difficult the keyword is that we want to rank for. And then we're able to go back to the client and give them a proposal that's tailored to their needs, with that pricing on there, from what they mentioned as their budget, from what they mentioned as what they've spent with agencies. If you do Google ads, for example, it'd be a very similar process where you're reviewing the competitor CPC and the ad complexity. If you're doing social media, if you're working with a local business, you're able to compare it to other local businesses in their area. There's a lot of different things that you can do in an audit where you are trying to pull specifics. Now, when you're actually building that audit, you're really just using a template of something that you just fill in a few lines, and I'll give further example of that later. But what I want to jump into is I want to walk through like my actual discovery call framework, because this is where the money is. So the first part of that discovery call is really just kind of rapport and framing. You don't want to spend too much on that. You want to spend 1 to 3 minutes briefly introing yourself, some friendly small talk. The most important part is that you want to clearly state the purpose of the call. So an example of this would literally just saying like, today, we're just going to get a clear picture of your current situation, your goals, and your roadblocks to see if and how we can actually best help you. I just have a few quick questions for you. And then from there, we'll schedule a future call where I'll be able to actually give you specifics about your business. And then you just introduce yourself briefly. Hey, I'm yada, yada, yada. My business does this. This is how good we are. Give me a quick snapshot of, a quick 30-second elevator pitch of yourself, because you don't want them to come and lay out all their problems yet. You want to be able to control the conversation, because we're trying to make this call pretty quick, right? It's supposed to be a 15 to 30 minute call. So we want to get through our questions quickly, and then from there, be able to go back with the team. So especially they'll come at you with questions like, oh, well, what do you see about this for my business? And I'm always like, hey, listen, I understand that you have a lot of questions about this. I'd rather give you educated opinions or educated ideas on this rather than just guessing. So we want to make sure that we're actually doing an audit of your business before we can move on to that, right? So that's one of the first things that we do. And then we are going to go through like just the straightforward business metrics. We want to know what their revenue is. We want to know what their profit is in some cases. We want to know in some cases like what's their AOV. We want to know in some cases like if it's running ads. We want to know their CPL. We want to know their ROAS. We want to know their CPA. If they're not generating leads and you want to generate them leads, then how are they currently getting out their leads? Oh, it's organic. Oh, it's outreach. Oh, it's this. So you're wanting to get all the information of all the metrics in their business, all the financials in their business. You want to get everything about their current practices and really dive deep into the process. Business owners respect you and will respect you more if you know which questions to ask and which things to dive into, right? So then you're going to dive into like a deep diagnosis of their problems. So like the specific issues they're facing, whether it's conversion rate, whether it's the lead quality, visibility, whatever it might be. Then we want to know why they think that these issues actually exist and what the problem is and what the solution might be. And then if they've had any past experiences with solutions or with agencies or with freelancers and their outcome of those. And then whenever I ask them if they've worked with agencies in the past, I always ask them how much they've spent with them, because if they've spent 3K, 5K, 6K, whatever with an agency, then I know that if I can address and fix the issues that they had with that agency, which would be their objection, then I know that they're willing to pay the same thing for me. So even if my service, in my mind, I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is a 3K client because that's all that I would do for them, I can come back and sell them on that same 3K service for 5K, even though I'm doing the same exact thing, because I know that they're willing to pay that if I'm willing to adjust the issues that they might have, whether it was reporting, communication, results, whatever it might be. If I can address that and I can fix that, then immediately I know that they'll be able to pay the same thing for me. And so when I'm building my audit and building my proposal, I'm building it around that exact price. And so that gives you a really good insight on what they're willing to pay. Now, obviously, if they haven't worked with an agency in the past, or if they just hired a freelancer for $100 a month or whatever, then it's a little bit more difficult to navigate, because then you have to go into the question of, well, what's your budget, right? And most large business owners, they'll be able to answer the question of what their budget actually is for the service. If they can't answer this question, then you do kind of have to pry a little bit more. So for example, it depends on what you're doing, right? If you're selling SEO, if you're selling lead gen, whatever it might be, you just have to let them know like, hey, this is a service. This is what you're gonna have to pay up front. Wanted to know if you've budgeted this out before, if you have an idea more or less of where you want to land. And you can even give them a range of like, hey, just so you know, we do all of our stuff custom, but our prices are between $3,000 and $20,000. Based on the business of your size, normally they fall around like $5,000. And you want to be honest with that, right? You want to really say where they would actually fall. Or if they're like, hey, I'm not sure yet, I'd rather start at the beginning. Okay, great. Let's start at the beginning. And then from there, we'll prove ourselves to you and we'll scale up from there, right? Those types of things. And then the fifth thing is you want to get the sales, kind of a sales and operations check-in, right? And so that's where you're actually evaluating their current sales process and the effectiveness of it, especially unless you're doing sales. But if you're doing their marketing, lead gen for them, whatever it might be, you want to know exactly how good their sales process is. If this isn't a solution that you're going to bring to them, you want to make sure that they have a good process and that it's effective. And then same thing with the CRM and with their automation usage and their backend, how good their results are. I mean, obviously there will be occasions where we're a little bit more desperate and we just want to close anyone, but many circumstances, you want to know like if they're actually getting results for their clients, how well they're closing, how often they're closing, etc. So that you know that when you're working with them, there won't be any hiccups along the way of like, oh, hey, stop, that's too much business for me, or this is too much work, or my team's not closing, they're closing at a 10%, and you brought me all these leads and they're not closing any of them. So it's important to understand those things, because those can be roadblocks for you and for actually working with them. And so that's important to understand and to help diagnose. Now, the sixth thing is you want to understand the goals and the urgency check. So you want to make sure that you clarifying why solving this problem is urgent now. Because if it isn't a problem that's urgent now, it needs to be pushed out for later. And that's why this call is a quick one, because it's just to make sure like this is something that they're willing to pay for and that they will pay for now. So if they're like, no, actually, we're looking to start this at the end of summer or in 2 months or whatever. And it's like, great. When we do our audits, we like to do it as close to the time that you'd like to start as possible. The reason for this being is because your competitors constantly change, and we want to make sure that the proposal and that the audit that we're giving to you is as accurate as possible. So if this isn't something now, we can continue with this, but we're going to schedule our proposal in 2 months from now, or in 1 month from now, or whatever. So then you give them that timeline of when you're actually planning on starting. Number 7 is the qualification and the financial clarity side of things, right? So this is where you confirm if they actually have a realistic budget and ready to solve their problem, right? So we talked a little bit about budget when we were talking about the past experience they've had with other agencies, but in this side of things, we're also, if they're spending ads, we want to get clarification on how much they've spent in ads in the past or how much they want to spend now, especially if you have a minimum. Like one of my agencies, for example, we only work with people that are spending at least $50,000 a month. So if you have that minimum, then you need to make sure that you're like, oh, this isn't going to work. We require this. And if they're like, oh, that's a game breaker for us, it's not going to work, then we need to end it here. And thank you very much for your time. Come back when you're ready to spend that much. It confirms those types of things. And if they're willing, if you're saying like, hey, we do 3, 6, 12-month contracts, do you have this budget for this amount of time, right? And so then when you present the price to them on that proposal, it doesn't come as like a shock to them. Or when you're spending ad spend on the back end and they're like, oh, why are you spending so much money? And it doesn't come to a shock to them, because that's kind of one of your requirements of the things that you're able to clarify here. And then this also gauges the readiness and the willingness that they have to invest in their business. Because if they're hesitant, if they're like, no, this isn't quite for me yet, I'm not quite sure, then this immediately shows you that it's very unlikely that this person's going to close. And so then you need to go into more objection handling, or why they have this mindset that it's not going to work out for them, or whatever it might be. But all of these things will give you clarity for the audit and for the proposal, so that when you come on the second call, nothing is a surprise to them and nothing is a surprise to you. And then you're able to talk to all their pain points. You're able to talk to all their objections, and you're able to give them clear evidence, and you're able to prep yourself to be able to overcome these objections and to be able to overcome these pain points that they might have. So then when you end this discovery call with them, you've gotten all the information from them, you've collected absolutely everything. You want to just clearly state the next step with them. So you're going to say, hey, we're going to perform a detailed audit to identify exactly what's needed and how we can best help. Then we'll schedule a second call to present tailored recommendations and then our custom pricing for those recommendations. And then you'll book that call immediately. Do not hang up the phone without having that second call booked. That's like my number one rule. Especially if you need to get access to things. For example, if you're doing like an Amazon audit or a Google Ads audit or a Meta audit or whatever, or you're auditing their GHL or whatever it might be, you need to get access to that on that very call. So if your closer's doing it or you're doing it, you need to have scripted out the exact permissions that you need. You need to be able to explain it to them step by step, and it needs to be done on that call because it's urgent now for them. once they hang up the phone and they have to go pick up their daughter from school, or once they hang up the phone and they get on their next call, or once they hang up the phone and they go to sleep, they're not thinking about it anymore. And it's going to be a lot harder to be able to get them to actually do it. You'll have a lot of people just completely ghost you and never give you permissions, even if you do have a second call booked, if you don't get those on that very call. So get everything that you absolutely need. If you don't need anything from them, even better if you can figure out how to do that. Try and get it all right then, and then book that second call immediately. And the idea of that second call is you want to have it as quick as possible. So I have my team finish an audit in 24 hours. So we book calls out 24 hours. And you want to be able to do that as quickly as possible, because once again, it's fresh on their minds. And then it's also fresh on your mind because you just chatted with them and walked through everything. Now, obviously, if they're like, no, we're not looking to get started for a while, then you would want to move it out to that time. But book it as quickly as you possibly can for the soonest time. Once you're actually conducting the audit, so the behind the scenes side of things, obviously it's going to vary based on your business and what you actually do. But this is why, one of the big reasons of why the audit matters. It emphasizes not only the customization of your service so that it seems tailored to them, as I've mentioned and over again, but then it also shows your expertise, right? So then you're not just relying on proving your worth with case studies or proving your worth with, testimonials. Your worth is also proved on like how much you know, and your team can help you with that. If you're the one doing the audits, then obviously you'll have to invest the time into it. But if you can automate it and have your team push a lot of energy and time into that audit, then that will give you the expertise that your team has. It also, like I said, avoids giving generic and or rushed pricing, right? Because then we're tailoring something to what that business actually needs. And more importantly for us as closers, we're tailoring it to what we know that they're already willing to say yes to if we're able to address their objections. Now, some of the elements to an audit, for example, in SEO, we'll do like competitor backlink analysis, keyword difficulty, content gap analysis, and then we'll be able to give them those specifics, right? And those are kind of just copy and paste things. If you're doing Google Ads, you want to check what their competitors are doing. You want to check what their historical campaigns have been doing, how you can improve those, where they've been wasting money, if they've done too much branded search here, not enough here, whatever it might be. If you're doing email marketing audit, you want to look at their email deliverability, the open click rates, the competitor benchmarking. You want to look at their design, whatever it might be. You guys are the experts. You know what you're supposed to be looking at. Just try and pull out as much as you possibly can. Basically what your team would do on the back end once you onboarded them, that's kind of what you want to be able to do ahead of time. You just want to be able to automate it and make it quicker, right? Because you don't want to spend too much time on this, because you just want the basics, and they could not close. It's very possible, right? So you don't want to spend 3 hours on an audit when they don't end up closing, right? So you want to be able to do this quick. Even if you have like a software that can quickly analyze things, like with SEO, we have those where they can just do a quick audit of the site, and then it just makes life super easy. So that's some insights on the audit side of things. As far as the second call, so diving into that part of the closing process, this is where the proposal and closing framework actually comes in. Once again, it's going to vary based on what your audit is, but how I generally break my audits up is the first part is like the research technical based side of things, of where we're actually giving insights on what the competitors are doing, insights of what you're doing incorrectly, insights of what can be improved. Now, there is a healthy balance of how much information you give out, because you also don't want to give out too much that they can grab that and then just go do it themselves, or too much that they can grab that and build an in-house team, or that they can give it to their current agency and say, hey, do this better, right? We want to make sure that we're pointing out all the problems and not necessarily giving them all the solutions. So we do want to give, expert recommendations and strategic insights, but we don't want it to be so incredibly extensive that they can just grab that and run. So like I said, we want to summarize their core problems that we've identified in the audit, and then straight after that, it's outlining the tailored strategy to address these issues that we've found. Now, like I said, you don't necessarily need to give them tons of specifics. So going again back to the example of SEO, we can say like, hey, these are all the keywords that we found that you should target. This is what you're doing wrong. This is what your competitors are doing well. And this is what we'll do for you. We'll do your backlink strategy. We'll fix all your on-site. We'll do your content, and we'll do this, and this will fix everything, right? So we've told them what they're going to get from the service, but we haven't given them like a step-by-step of how we're going to actually do it. I mean, it's the same thing with ads. It's like, yes, you're doing this incorrectly. You're doing this incorrectly. This is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. And you're harping on all the problems very heavily. And then you're presenting your service as the solution of like, hey, we're going to do this and fix this. And so you're not telling them how you're going to do it, but you're telling them that your service is the thing that's going to fix the problem that they have. And then from there, you just give a recap of everything that you talked about on that proposal. And then you offer that final pricing where you're able to say like, and this is what it costs. Whenever I say this, I'm always saying, and this is within the budget that you had asked for yesterday, and here's the price, right? And it's a 3-month, 6-month, whatever it is. Super transparent, super clear. Now, the number one mistake that people make is that once they say the price, they keep talking, right? And that's where you literally put your foot in your mouth. You say the price, and then you're like, oh, and by the way, we'll also do this. And oh, your competitors are doing this much better. Oh, and they're spending so much more, so this isn't very much money. And you're literally talking yourself into a hole, and they just see it as excuses and like, oh, okay, here he comes. Oh, he's giving me more. Oh, he's really hardcore selling me now. The best thing to do, and it's very uncomfortable, the best thing to do is say, this costs $3,500. It's for 3 months. And then that's it. You wait for them to make the first move or to say the first thing. And I'll be honest, like there's been times where I've sat there for like 30 seconds to a minute and they just haven't said anything. But if you make the first move and you say the first thing, it feels like you're trying to hard sell them or push them into something that they don't want. And you want to try to completely avoid that. So wait until they say the first thing. And then that's when you can start going into a proper closing strategy of being able to address their objections, push the sale, all those types of things. We're not going to dive too much into those. This was just the framework for the discovery call and the proposal call. But that is kind of the idea of how you want to be able to do that. Now, using relatable analogies to overcome any kind of resistance that they might have, that's important, especially if you can show case studies of, people that are in their exact same niche, that had their exact same problem, and how we were able to overcome them for them, comparing marketing investment to hiring staff and highlighting that it is a lower risk. Like if you go out and like hire someone to do this for the same exact price, then you run the risk of, them making a mistake, you not knowing how to train them or not knowing how to watch over them, but you can spend the same price and have someone that already has a clear way of doing it, has been doing it forever, and has great case studies. And then of course you just want to close confidently by reminding them why they booked the call in the first place and say, hey, you mentioned you wanted to solve this urgently, and this is exactly how we're going to do it. You mentioned this was your budget, and this is exactly how we're going to do it. Now, the last thing I do want to address is I do have like 2 big rules for end of a call, 2 or 3 huge rules. Now, the first rule, and this is in the case that they need to talk to their partner, they need to talk to a board, especially if you're talking to 8-9 figure businesses, they have other people to run these proposals by, they want to bring someone else on a call, whatever it might be, they need to think about it, they need to talk to their wife, they need to sleep on it, whatever it might be. Rule number 1, my number 1 rule is always have another call booked if payment isn't made on that call. So if they haven't signed a contract and they haven't paid you on that direct call, then number 1 rule is to make sure you have something else on the calendar. Even if they're like, hey, this isn't for me, I need to start in a month, get a call booked for a month from then. If they're like, hey, I need to talk to my wife, great. How long is it gonna take to talk to your wife for? Oh, you need to talk, oh, she's at work, she gets home at 5, and then you need to talk to her after that. Great. So would it be fair to assume that tomorrow you would have had that conversation and we'd be able to move forward in kind of figuring that out? Okay, perfect. And then you put that call on the calendar. Now, one of the tricks that I use for a follow-up call is I generally call them onboarding calls, right? And it's not a proper onboarding call, right? Because my team's not going to be on there because obviously he hasn't paid, he hasn't signed, but I call them onboarding calls to give them like the mental switch that we're going to work together. Like this next call is where you pay me and where you sign your contract. So it's like, hey, great. Okay, perfect. We can schedule our onboarding call for tomorrow. I'll send you over contract and invoice so you can check those out ahead of time. And then on that call, we can address those and get those sorted and then get you onboarded, right? And you're not really doing like a proper onboarding. It's like, okay, you add them into Slack, you whatever, right? Like it's kind of like a fake sales onboarding type thing, right? But it puts them in the frame of mind that when they show up to this call, that's when it's time to pay. This isn't just a follow-up call to ask more questions. Now, you're going to answer their questions if they have them when they come to that call, but the end of the call is going to be framed as, great, now let's get started. Great, now let's do this. And I'll even tell them like, hey, if you handle the contract and invoice ahead of time, I'll cancel that and I'll make sure to just get you added into Slack right away, and the team will onboard you and you can schedule a call with the full team, right? And then we don't need to have that call. But I always have something on the calendar if, an invoice or a contract hasn't been paid yet. So that's my rule number one is, and even if it's like a third, fourth, whatever call, always have something on the calendar, no matter what. Even if you come on and it's like, okay, we need to bring my board on to present them to this again. Great. Present it to them, show them the price. Great. They need to go back and discuss. Okay. Then still another call on the calendar, And I'll keep going even up to like 5 to 6 calls before I need to figure out what's actually going on in this person's head. Right. So that's rule number 1. Rule number 2, and this will help you with rule number 1, is ask the direct and uncomfortable questions to clarify if, how, and when they're moving forward. You have to remember that you just spent an hour and a half with Discovery Call with them, giving them all the information. You spent your team's time, you spent valuable time, and you've invested that valuable time into them. So you deserve to have answers for things, right? And they are uncomfortable questions, but if you remember in your head that like, I need to know these things for peace of mind, then you are going to have to ask those uncomfortable questions. So if, you present the price and you say nothing and they're like, well, that looks great, fantastic, send everything over and we'll get it handled. Right? Like in your mind, you're like, okay, well, maybe they're just going to get off the call and pay everything. Right. And then we'll get started. It doesn't matter. Like I said, we still want that second one on the call, but you're going to ask them, okay, great. When are you planning on getting started? Oh, I have to run this past my partner. Okay, great. How long is it going to take you to talk to him? Oh, it's going to take me 2 days. Great. What do you think possible objections that he might have? Oh, he might have this. Would it be helpful to get on a call with him and actually walk through some of these objections that he might have? Yeah, maybe. Okay. Oh, business is going through a tough time right now. We don't know if we have this kind of cash to actually put into this. Okay, when would you have this? Or even ask something even more uncomfortable. Okay, why is it that you mentioned that you had this budget if you're now telling me that you don't have this budget? Oh, I just wanted to see what you had to offer. Okay, so is this offer something that is, so this isn't something that's urgent for you? It's not, like, ask the uncomfortable questions. And it's going to feel like you're stepping out of bounds, but really, in fact, you, like I said, invested your time and your company's valuable time in this person. And so you deserve to know, and you deserve to be direct to them so that you actually have answers and you know what to expect and you know what's exactly on their mind. And it might even bring up objections that you need to actually address that they just don't know how to describe to you, right? So you take that and you're able to turn it into a close. Or it could just give you peace of mind and understanding of, okay, don't need to follow up with them every day for a month because they've ghosted me and because they haven't told me what's going on. And then they respond to me a month later, when on that call, they would have just told me, we're looking to start in a month, right? So if you're able to pull that out of them, just be direct. Rule number 3, never stop following up unless they tell you to stop. So for example, I'll even be direct with them in my follow-ups. I'll say, hey, if this isn't a priority for you right now, save me some time, save you some time, and I will stop following up with you right now. But if you don't, I'm going to keep following up day after day until you're completely annoyed at me. But my rule for my setters, for my closers, whoever it is, hey, unless they ask you to stop or unless they tell you to stop, follow up with them forever, right? They've given you their information, they've given you legal permission to be able to follow up with them, and you've given them your time, and you deserve to know what's going on. So even be very direct on those follow-ups if you've noticed that they're ghosting or they're not replying after a few things, right? Call them, text them, always go back to the mode of communication that was the most common one for them to respond to you. Remember those kinds of details. Now, in conclusion, just to quickly reframe everything that we talked about, we do have that 2-call close, right? That first one is the discovery call, where we're gathering all the information, loading all the ammo into our weapon to be able to go and weaponize that proposal on that second call. It's going to create higher conversion rates 100% of the time and better client relationships, and you'll make more money. I have clients that I do the exact same service for that pay me $10K than the ones that are paying me $5K, just because they said that they had a higher budget, just because that they said that they have paid an agency that amount of money. And just because I've built it so custom to them that they realize, oh, this is what my business needs, not giving them a 3-package one and then they just pick the middle one, right? Like, we're not trying to do pricing psychology here. We're telling them this is the solution for you and this is the best option. So you're going to get higher conversion rates from that because you're showing them that you're the expert, and you're going to get higher profit from it because you're going to be able to charge higher prices, which is better across the board. So if you found this valuable, comment some of your biggest takeaways, and then if there's any other things in sales that you would like me to address or any questions that you have about my sales process. If you want any other resources, feel free to ask for those as well, and I can drop those in the description or anything like that. But thank you so much for watching. Once again, many of you will watch, but few of you will actually listen.